You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-Doc Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there's been a lot of old wives' tales on if you want to get your wife pregnant or your girlfriend pregnant, you need to save up, or you need to abstain, or you need to, have an umbrella in the room. I don't know. There's all these different wives' tales. And one of the latest studies is actually encouraging not long abstinence, but actually increase in ejaculation, where if men are a lot more active in terms of their orgasm or ejaculatory behavior, that may actually help them from a fertility standpoint. Now, I'm not going to show this study to the men in my family because I got a lot of chores that need to get done. Okay, the last thing I need is men, right, who got work to do and things to get done, to feel like they got to go and, have their efforts now diverted. But, it's interesting because I've been able to help a lot of couples get pregnant because of the advice I've given. I even gave you guys this advice, and some of my listeners said that worked. And one of my pieces of advice, one portion of that piece was to minimize male ejaculation frequency so they actually have some sperm to give you when you're ovulating. It would be nice for there to be some left. But according to the study, you don't have to abstain that long. So I'll tell you what the study says, and then I'll tell you what I tell you to do to get pregnant. All right, because I do have advice. So this has been reported by The Guardian, but Dr. Krish Sangiva is a biologist in University Oxford and lead author of the study. He said, in men, the negative effects we found on sperm damage and oxidative damage were large-ish. So we are confident that this is a biological, meaningful, and important effect to tell men to not necessarily go without sex too long, but increase and have more frequent ejaculation. So what are some of the numbers here? Now, let me see. In the trial, the Oxford study found no impact of abstinence on fertilization rates in humans. I believe they involved 453 couples. They compared pregnancy rates for two groups of couples. Men in the first group abstained from ejaculating for less than 2 days before providing sperm for the IVF treatment. Men in the second group followed the World Health Organization recommendations and abstained for 2 to 7 days before providing sperm. The pregnancy rate was higher in those men that held off for only 2 days versus 36%. So the pregnancy rate was 46% for men who only waited 2 days, but 36% for men who waited 2 to 7 days. They said for couples trying to conceive naturally, somewhere between the 2 and 7 days could make sense. They don't want you to abstain for too long because the sperm could get damaged and not very mobile. But if you abstain too little, the sperm may not be numerous and mature enough. So it's kind of like the Goldilocks. It has to be just right. But for IVF, they didn't necessarily have to recommend that you wait a whole 7 days. They were able to do something, with your sperm, even if it was only a couple. So the advice I had given couples is, one is to know your biological clock and know your calendar. So let's say you have a 28-day cycle. Rather than having sex every single day in that midweek, have sex day 11, 13, and 15, or 12, 14, and 16. Why? Because it takes a couple days for the sperm to, so when you get pregnant, you don't get pregnant necessarily in the uterus, you get pregnant in the fallopian tube. So the egg ovulates, the egg starts to go down the tube from the ovary into the tube. The sperm has to, and I got to tell you, we are talking Rambo style, efforts to get through the hostile environment of the vagina. But the sperm has to go through the vagina, up into the cervix, into the uterus, through up into that area, jump into the fallopian tube, and then swim up the fallopian tube to meet the egg, to get pregnant in the fallopian tube, join, fertilize, and then come down and then land within the uterus. And so because that process could take a couple days, I didn't want people, because people would say, well, look, we're doing it, 7 times a day when I'm ovulating. I would say, no, do it once or twice a day on your day 11, 13, 15, or 12. And it seemed to work all the time. And I think it was just because there was a little bit of save up. If I had also said that the male, we don't want him to hold off for more than 2 weeks because the sperm got old. But don't hold, but maybe, I actually said a few days. No ejaculation a few days prior to allow there to be some volume left. And it was interesting how that seemed to work. So, this study is kind of highlighting the fact that many men's bodies and testicles are aware that men may be very, very active from a sexual standpoint and may lose sperm. And it's suggesting that in a healthy male, their testicles know how to go into overdrive and know how to mass produce. They are like the Amazon, right, of fertility. They will get ready, deliver, do whatever they have to do but if you are struggling with fertility, and by the way, those people who already go through IVF, they've already gone through the training and the testing. So we do know what the viscosity is. We know what's going on with the sperm. We know about the motility, their morphology. So the sperm analysis has already been done. And so we know if there's any compromising aspects to the male part of the fertility. And then in terms of females, if we could catch you when you're ovulating and understand when that egg is going to come out, if they're or if they are able to use your eggs and harvest your eggs and then connect to the sperm, and so I think we've been able to do amazing things to help couples who I think would be amazing parents to be able to have a baby. And I'm really, really glad. I know there's a lot of naturalists who say, look, if a couple can't reproduce, God wants it that way or nature wants it that way. No, I think we live in a different world where you might be struggling because of a variety of external factors. So if we can externally help, I'm for it. But guys, don't overdo it, but you might not have to abstain as long as you thought. 187, but still do your housework for the love of the Lord. 1877 Dr. Dolly.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years, stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Dahlia. As many of you know, I lost another colleague to suicide. And tragically, tens of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of physicians, take their lives each year. Why is suicide so common? Why doctors? Even medical students have alarming suicide rates. Nurse burnout is at an all-time high. Maybe it's the monstrous workloads we face every day. Maybe it's because of burnout, malpractice suits, online reviews. Medicine has changed so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable to those of us who entered this field and wanted to take it by storm. But there's not a lot of resources out there for healthcare providers who deny that they are struggling or at risk. So my book, The Depressed Doctor, aims to change that for both the physician and medical student and anyone else who is struggling. Find The Depressed Doctor on Amazon or at drdahlia.com. And if you are currently struggling, call or text 988, the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. Don't wait. The silence is killing us. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So there's this meme. I've seen this before, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. Like a cop is, is taking a report from this guy, or a comedian is saying this, or there's a video where some man's credit card gets stolen. And the cop or somebody asks him, well, why didn't you report it? And the guy answers, because the thief is actually spending less than my wife. And so I'm actually saving money on the deal. And so, you see these jokes, you see these memes, but they're not wrong. I had a buddy of mine years ago showed me the credit card that he got a hold of his wife's credit card. And the credit card was so flattened that you couldn't even feel or see the numbers. It was swiped so much that the color was gone from the card and identifying aspects of the card. Nowadays, you tap it or you chip read. But, I'm very lucky in that I don't really like to shop. I can't stand going shopping. I don't like spending money if I don't have to. My Achilles heel, though, okay, because I don't like spending money and I don't like shopping. And this blouse I'm wearing right now, it's Rewear Wednesday. Every day for me is rewear. I think this blouse is like 3 years old. I've only worn it 4 or 5 times. Why am I going to buy a new shirt? And I'm going to buy a new shirt. I'll buy a new toothbrush, but my Achilles heel is I do like to sometimes upgrade my flights. I think it's a waste of money, but if I'm flying alone, when I'm flying with my family, I love flying coach and I could sleep on their shoulder and all that. But having woken up with men sleeping on me or touching me and things like that, I really do. I like the space. And so, if I have miles on the card and things like that and points, I'll try to upgrade the flights, especially now that flights are already pretty expensive. Sometimes it's only a couple $100 more, but still, that's my Achilles heel. Other than that, I don't spend. My husband's more of the spender. He's the one that spends more of the money. However, he's really good at it. He doesn't overspend. So I couldn't imagine being in a marriage where you're paycheck to paycheck and you are with somebody who spends a lot. Now, we've spoken about compulsive shopping disorder. I think Johnny Depp, somebody had accused him of having a compulsive shopping issue. We've talked about oniomania, where is compulsive buying. We call it compulsive buying disorder. We used to call it shopaholic. But compulsive buying is something where it's leading people to financial devastation. And, I remember working at a place where every time I walked by, to go to the bathroom, one person's office, they were always on Amazon. They were always shopping. And I'm like, you're spending a lot of money. I mean, your husband could be pretty ticked off. You can't be just sitting there shopping. And it's because, how Google and Meta just got sued? Because for teenagers, it was too addictive, the jury felt. And that was causing them to be addicted. I wonder if Amazon and these shopping websites are going to get sued when couples are in financial ruin because their spouse keeps buying and they keep shopping. Now, I like Amazon. Amazon, for me, works because I used to have to walk into a Walmart when I needed toothpaste. And no way did I ever walk out of Walmart without spending $100 or $200. And I'm like, oh, there's a doggy bed. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's, and I was in Costco the other day. And I went to Costco to buy a couple things for the office. When I was done, it was $350. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I don't like to spend. But you're like, oh, I could use this, I could use this, I could use this. Now, mind you, I did buy things that I could use. Like I've bought toilet paper where it lasts a year in the house. So trust me, I'm going to make that work. But what I like about Amazon is if I need toothpaste, I could just go ask for the toothpaste and that's it. Check out, pay, close it up. But unfortunately, there's other people that really, really get addicted to this. So some people may have underlying manic episodes, bipolar disorder. Some of them may have obsessive compulsive. Some people might start to preoccupy. How do you know if you have compulsive buying disorder? Where when you're sitting there going, I got to shop for this. Ooh, I can't wait to shop for this. Ooh, I want to see if this is on sale. Oh, I want to see what deal I'm going to get. Where you're thinking about it and you're not paying attention at work. When you get anxiety, if you can't go online. If you purchase items you don't necessarily need. When you spend beyond your budget. When you try to hide your shopping behavior from others. When you feel guilt after shopping. When you're struggling to work or at home because you're always online shopping. And if you also have other addictive behaviors like binge eating, drinking, gambling, things like that. So compulsive online shopping or compulsive buying disorder, it could affect a lot of relationships and things like that. Apparently, it affects almost 10% of the U.S. population. I think it's going higher. And so, why are people then doing it? Well, one is people are bored. So they're at work. They don't like their job. They're online. Meanwhile, you got these ads that are popping up. And you're like, well, And by the way, you also feel like you did something, you accomplished something when you bought something. Like, all right, I bought my plane tickets. I bought that doggy bed. I got that done. That's one thing off my list. Now, I've needed to buy a doggy bed for a long time, so I do feel good about that. But what if you're buying something that you didn't need? So people feel like they got something off their list. You're being manipulated because these companies know how to get you. How many times have you been buying something where then it says, okay, you are only $10 away from free shipping? Well, you're like, well, shipping's going to cost me $30. So I want to make $20. So let me find something else for $10 and nothing's on there for $10. It's only 40. Be like, yeah, but I got free shipping. Or they say, if you order 3 more items, you get an additional $25 off. So you're like, well, wow, I only have to order 3 more items. So by the time you get done, you have 10 items and your bill is already hundreds of dollars. They overprice things, but then they say you have a discount. So when you go to your checkout, you're like, you saved this much. You just saved $150 off your order. And then you tell husband, going, man, I saved $150 off my order. Yeah, but what did you spend? $450. On what? 4 blouses. Now, see, I just don't go there. I'm just not going to go there. But they make you do that so that the software does that so you feel good. You feel like you're a winner. Then they email you saying, look, if you shop today in the next 5 hours, and then there's a clicker, like there's a timer, or in the next few minutes, you get an extra deal. So you're like, well, I got to beat the timer. And then you get these coupons coming to you. So they know how to manipulate you. You're constantly being manipulated, which is why you just got to leave the computer. Just leave it. So don't give in to ads. Pick a budget, etc. Have hobbies. Have, other things to do so you're not bored. Go to something else. Even if it's a video game, so you're not, but don't buy on the video game. But the question started out is, what do you do if it's your spouse? And your spouse doesn't think it's a problem. Now that gets tricky. You are going to have to get a counselor involved. Because I've seen marriages fall apart. Oh, he was cheap. He was so cheap. And he wouldn't let me buy. And they're like, okay, she was spending thousands of dollars a week. I don't make that money. We were in trouble. One thing you could also do is limit the spending limit. You could call the credit card company and say, I want you to lower the spending limit. So then the credit card gets blocked. Now, I know that's going to cause a fight. And you could have a card for emergencies if you need to. But if it's a card like at Target or something, you could always call and change the credit limit. Same thing with, I believe you could do this with Amazon and other things where you could limit the shopping amount. Or you could put a limit in case you have somebody in the family that's overspending. But you got to sit down with them and look at the budget. Many of these individuals are shopping because they have a disorder, which is why you got to get them help. Okay? Don't be mad at them. Don't say they're evil. Say, we understand that this could be very addictive or that the computer is very manipulative. And I know you need things. There's a wedding coming up or there's this or this, and I get that. But we are over budget and we can't get that money back. Now, luckily with Amazon, you could return things. And so one thing you could do is you could tell your spouse, we need money. And if you want to shop and you want to spend $500 next month, we need to come up with that $500. So let's look at some of the stuff you bought and let's sell it or return it. Well, I need it all. Well, then I guess you don't then need to spend $500 next month. Okay, what do you need to buy? Well, shoes. Like my husband asked me, he's like, okay, we got a lot of shoes for you. I'm like, yeah, but they're for different outfits. I get it. It's frustrating. I don't buy shoes. I haven't bought a new pair of shoes in a long time. But I save everything because just in case I need them. So we need room. We need space. Let's sell some of these. Let's donate. All right. But we're going to have to do something because this is not, sustainable. It's not easy. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, Fine Farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
And we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So while we were waiting for the House to quit screwing around and just fund TSA and fund the government and stop doing this BS, apparently there was a consideration for National Women's Month. Now, Pennsylvania House Democrats decided to withdraw consideration of a resolution honoring March as National Women's Month. Why? Well, because in this resolution, there had to be a definition of woman. And I guess they didn't want to define what a woman was. So it was supposed to be a quick symbolic vote. And instead, I guess people were laughing. And Democrats didn't know what to do. House Speaker Joanna McClinton, Democrats from Southwest Philly, brought a bunch of bills up, and she wanted to introduce House Resolution 390. The bill came from Representative Carol Hill Evans, Democrat from New York, recognizing March as Women's History Month. Celebrates the extraordinary accomplishments of women, which too often go unacknowledged. Very nice. Well, the House agreed the resolution. Now, apparently, there had to be in this resolution, what is a woman, who identifies as a woman. And that didn't, I guess, happen. According to Representative Aaron Bernstein, a Republican from Elwood City, he said, "Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment is very straightforward and clear. It defines what a woman actually is because we don't know what it is." And then you see, I guess, people laughing, and I guess the resolution is temporarily over. Why? Because they couldn't, allow there to be something in writing saying what a woman is. Are you kidding me? And this shocked me. I was really excited about Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson until Senator Marsha Blackburn asked her, what is a woman? And Ketanji Brown Jackson was nominated because President Biden said he's going to choose a woman. Well, if she couldn't define what a woman was, well, then she's out of the running. But no, she obviously was confirmed, and she's one of our chief justices. But you have a chief justice who is a woman and got there because of other women and men. I do thank the men that helped us women progress. And they can't even honor other women with a simple definition. I know somebody said, well, Dr. Dahlia, you can't define a woman in one sentence. They're multifactorial. Okay, that's fine, but there's still a basic definition of a woman. Now, I understand that there's a lot of debate over chromosomes. What if somebody has Turner syndrome? Or what if they have XY? Or they have, I understand that there are some variants, but the majority of women are XX and the majority of men are XY. And in medicine, I see medical schools struggle. And you see students, they're like, well, I don't want to ask them if they're male or female. I don't want to ask them what body part they have because I don't want to shame them. I don't want to. I go, you are going to be sued and lose your license if that patient ends up having cancer that you missed or improper care. And when you are before the state medical board saying, well, I didn't want to accidentally assume a gender, that's not going to save you. Woke won't save you. And you won't be able to practice medicine if you screw up so badly that you aren't addressing a person's medical needs. And what's very interesting is you'd think the ACLU would be all over this because you're having transgender individuals now get sub-care because people don't want to ask them if they have ovaries or testicles. So that means these individuals are now going to be at higher risk of cancer, at higher risk of pathology because they're transgender. Well, no, but we're doing it because that's the woke thing to do, to not bring up what they are and ask questions about their biological upbringing or their biological anatomy. Okay, well, then you're discriminating against them. You're biasing them and you're treating them differently than other patients. And you're putting them in harm's way, which means you're anti-transgender. Oh, I didn't look at it that way. If you're not giving a person the proper care they need and identifying if they have ovaries or testicles, you are putting them at risk. Now, there's a way to do it delicately. There's a way to do it without misgendering. However, I do see a population of transgender individuals where they call their testicles ovaries. And they call their sperm eggs. And there are many who will really envelop and engulf in the, I'm not going to call something a sperm, my gamete, or my my fertility abilities. I am going to name differently. The problem is a sperm and an egg is an egg. And so what I do with patients is, one is I ask them how they would like to be addressed. You do that with everybody. My mom's name, she was given the name Karen, but she was always called Kay. Back in the 60s, she said, just call me Kay. I don't like the name Karen. So, I always told students, this was way before the whole Karen thing that came out in the news and everybody was making fun of Karens. But I'm like, many people don't like their name. I didn't like being called Dahlia. I loved my name Dahlia. So how would I like to be addressed? Call me Dahlia. It's fine. Call me doctor. Call me whatever. So that's fine. Call me. This is how I would like to be addressed. King, president, whatever, however you'd like to be addressed. We're here to address that. So you honor that. Then I'm having abdominal bloating. Okay. Before we order a CAT scan to look at the body parts that could be causing the bloating or an ultrasound, can I ask you about what body parts could be there? Do you have a uterus? No. Do you have testicles? No. Do you have ovaries? No. Did anything get removed? I don't know. Not a problem. We're going to scan so that we know what you have and we can see what could possibly be inflamed. You do what you can, but you have to treat the patient. The patient's life comes first. I told you I had a patient. Well, I was with medical students. We were doing some volunteer work at a church. And the patient comes in saying that when he was younger, the doctors removed his testicles without his choice, and he has been bleeding since the surgery. Now, the students were just in shock that somebody could be this barbaric. And I'm like, do you mind if we take a look? I want to see where you're bleeding from and see what we could do to control the bleeding. So when he removed his pants, there was a vagina. There was no evidence of there being ever any surgery. So in this patient's mind, they were male. Somebody took his testicles away, and the bleeding was actually a monthly period that as a biological female, she was having. And so it was a great teaching moment with students where, one, you got to examine them. Right? You can't always take the patient's word for it. It could have been a delusion or but I'm thinking that this person had testicles removed. And that's why they were bleeding. Until you saw, no, they were bleeding because they were having a period. And how awful for somebody who thinks they're male to be having a period and no tampons or pads or help. And so, we need to be able to go back and simplify things. Like I said, you can honor however anybody wants to be addressed. But your job as a doctor, your job as, as an educator or whatever, is to make sure they're getting the needs that they need biologically. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I had a mild problem that I was able to overcome. It took years to overcome this. And the issue I had was going out in public without makeup and without my hair being done. And you would think, being a doctor, and many of you see pictures of me when I was in training. I didn't really have makeup and stuff done because when you're doing 36-hour shifts, you have no time to reapply it. But I still felt that that was something you had to do. Maybe it's because of, my mom wasn't big on makeup or hair, but, I had an aunt who was a model. My grandmother was beautiful. I just felt like I'm going to run into somebody. I have to be presentable. I always wear a bra. I will never go outside without wearing a bra. Things like that. And it wasn't until recently Maybe it's because of me walking the dogs or whatever, where I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. If people don't see me without my makeup or my hair. Now, of course, one of the first days I do that, I run into Donny Osmond. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, hi. He's like, good to see you. What's going on? I was like, I don't have my hair and makeup because that's okay. And I'm like, oh, man. And then, of course, I live near a bunch of Golden Knights. They're just gorgeous, and I'm running into them without makeup. So I might have to kind of go back and start doing that because I really don't like people seeing me, as, how I really look. Because it's amazing what hair and makeup does. And it's I don't like fake. I don't want to think that I look a certain way because I have to fake. God gave me what God gave me, and this is who I am. But I got to tell you, I've seen video after video of people who just look, plain as day, and then they look like supermodels by the time they get the right hair and makeup done on them. It blows my mind, But I got to tell you, the element of freedom I feel now, where I'm like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care what people think. This is how I look. Beauty comes from the inside. Who cares? And the next step I have to take is understanding my age. This is going to be a tough one, where in my mind I think I'm in my 20s and I'm not, and I'm a middle-aged woman. And once my kids, God willing, have grandkids, I'm going to be a grandma. And I'm going to have to realize that people are looking at me like that. So I was seeing a patient, and one of the patients was, I think 27 years old. And he goes, if I was your son, what would you recommend? And I'm like, first of all, you're 27. I'm not. I was like, really? I'm old enough to be this guy's mother? And what's even worse about that is he recognizes that. So I told my husband, I go, do I look old enough to be a 27-year-old's mother? He's like, well, you don't look 27. And I was like, I can't believe I tell you, I live in La La Land. I really do. And so once I was like, yeah, I'm middle-aged, I'm this and this. It really does help you relax a little bit. There was an X-Men movie, and I got to remember which one this is. It had Michael Fassbender in it, so that's all I care about. But the girl that played Mystique wanted him and was in his bed. I don't blame her, all right? And she was not in the blue costume. She looked like, she's a Hunger Games girl, Jennifer or something, whatever. And so she looked like, who she was, whatever. But apparently in X-Men, it took a lot of effort for her to be, a looking human as opposed to her mutant form. And Michael Fassbender character, who played Magneto, said, no, I'm sorry, not interested. So she's like, well, I could be whoever you want. And so she changed the way she looked multiple different times. And he's like, this is what I like. You being blue. And you can hear guys in the audience go, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Everybody leave Michael Fassbender alone. He's mine. But his explanation was, when you are sitting there putting so much effort into looking a certain way, you're at half strength. And you need to be at full strength. So don't lose part of your energy trying to look and be something you're not, which was really common sense. But that movie line hit so much, and I'm sorry to be paraphrasing it so poorly, because that's kind of what I extend to patients. I extend that to my kids. I extend that to everything. If you are spending so much energy on something that you really don't need to do, it's taken away from the energy you need to provide. So like one reason why I never wore skirts and heels as a doctor in the office. I know now everybody has to wear professional dress and all that. But I was like, if I have to sit here and worry about my skirt and keeping my knees closed when I'm, talking to patients, and then the heels, and I'm not at full strength. I need to be at full capacity. And the heels are hindering me. The skirt is hindering me. I need to be able to do what I need to do. That's why I wore scrubs. I wore scrubs all the time. And it's interesting, they've changed it where they don't like doctors wearing scrubs. They want them in professional attire. But I love, like the pit and ER and things like that because, look, I dressing up in clothes and worried I'm going to get the clothes stained and all that, you're hindered. And so, I'm seeing that with just in general with life. You're trying to keep an appearance. There was a doctor I trained with who filed for bankruptcy 1 year out of medical school because as soon as he got his first paycheck, he decided to buy a fancy car, a fancy house, because he felt he needed to have that appearance up. If you're so worried about your appearance, now you just lost revenue. Now you have to file for bankruptcy. Maybe back up on the appearances. And I get it. If somebody saw, I had a Chevy Chevette with no air conditioning. If somebody saw a doctor drive that, they were like, well, something's wrong with that doctor. They must have gotten sued a lot because they can't afford a car with unbroken windows and air conditioning. So, yeah, I have a fairly decent car. I bought it used. But, just, if you're doing things and you're thinking that it's all about appearance or it's taking work to keep that up, what happens if you let it fall? What happens if you, just rebuild it? We only have X amount of energy and X amount of strength. Interestingly, one of my friends, doctor friends, got a knee replacement, and he was told he was too young. You're too young, but finally he's like, but I can't function with it. I'm not skiing anymore. I'm not hiking anymore. So the orthopedist said, you want to know what? I want you to function. And the reason why we say you're too young is because you may outlive the knee, and then you have to have a whole nother surgery in your 70s or 80s. And he said, you know what? I'll take that risk because I'm not living now. And so they do the knee replacement. And he's like, I'm like a new man. I could hike again. I could ski again. I could do things. And so sometimes we put so much effort into trying to make something work or trying not to change it that it's making us less effective. I think also God gives us gifts. Like one thing I really can't stand is when I go to a humid environment, my hair is like really frizzy. I do not like the way I look, and I don't like the way my hair looks. I think I look awful in a humid environment. But you want to know what? I'm more free. Right? I'm not damaging my hair. My hair is healthier. Sometimes just stop. Look at what your natural, the gray. Every one of my guy friends who has started to embrace the gray looks good. It's not bad. Why are you dyeing your beard? Why are you dyeing your hair? Why are you trying to hide it? There's even a pretty gray women could do. So if I do start to go gray, I haven't yet, but I mean, I'll probably blonde it, but I might do like a blonde gray or something like that, where I'm embracing it. But, I'm not here to give you guys beauty tips, but if it looks like you're putting a lot of work into something and you're half-staff, see what you can do about making yourself whole again. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.